www.fl.nrcs.usda.gov. You'll find links to more detailed information on the overall EQIP program, or simply stop by your local NRCS office.
Growing peppergrass is an excellent choice for new gardeners. All parts of this plant are edible, and it can withstand almost any condition. It has a unique, sharp, peppery flavor that can make fantastic dishes. You may have it growing on your property without even knowing it. It's often treated as a weed because it grows and spreads rapidly. Peppergrass deserves a contained spot in your garden. Peppergrass is an annual plant that grows in a variety of climates, and it can be a biennial in warmer regions. It has an invasive nature, and you can find it in urban areas, such as vacant lots of roadsides. If there is disturbed ground, peppergrass can grow. If you do try growing it yourself, your biggest challenge is keeping it under control. Container growing is best. All parts of the peppergrass plant are edible, including the roots, though most people just harvest the leaves. I'm Kathy Isom, Southeast AgNet.
When it really counts, depend on the source for the latest weather updates, keeping you ahead of the storm. 96.3 FM, 1370 AM, The Source.
Today we'll have sun and some clouds and a high of 81 to 83, then mainly clear skies tonight, low 65 to 68. Tuesday will be mostly sunny and pleasant, high tomorrow 80 to 82, then a mix of clouds and sunshine Wednesday with a passing shower in the afternoon, high 78 to 81. Mostly sunny Thursday and Friday, high Thursday 80 to 83, Friday 80 to 84. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Holly Waldron.
Just in case you don't know, there's a real Italian bakery in Ocala. The name is the Magnolia Bakery. Cannolis and traditional Italian pastries, and they're famous. Italian cheesecake too. And they have hot and cold lunch Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 3. When you spend $8, you get free pizza dough or bread. So call your order in ahead and save time. Call 352-207-2667. Magnolia Bakery on North Magnolia Avenue in Ocala. 352-207-2667. Merry Christmas and God bless.
You know what you want to do in retirement, but do you know how to get there? Tune in to Coasting into Retirement with Gary Marriage of Nature Coast Financial Advisors, Sunday mornings at 8 to get answers to your retirement planning questions. Plan today so you can do the things you've always dreamt about doing in retirement. Listen Sunday mornings at 8 to Coasting into Retirement with Gary Marriage of Nature Coast Financial Advisors.
Our firm offers insurance services.
This is Ocala Talks with Tom Schmidt, bringing stories that are important to our community in and around Ocala. Plus, of course, a splash of sports as well. Now, here's your host, Tom.
Welcome back to Ocala Talks, hour number 3 on a Monday. It is the holiday season. And as the holiday season gets here, you know, there's high expectations to make sure everything's perfect. Loneliness for those that don't have family members around, the stress of how much money you're spending, or just the stress of having loved ones come in from out of town. All this can lead to the holiday blues this time of year. For millions of Americans, symptoms of depression can be chronic and severe and have a significant impact on all aspects of life. But how do you know the difference between a case of the holiday blues or something more serious? Well, joining us now to talk about the challenge of treating depression and treatment options currently available are Dr. Craig Chepke and Sally. Dr. Chepke and Sally, good morning to you.
Good morning, Tom. Thanks for having us.
Dr. Chepke, let's start with you first. Can you tell me a little bit about clinical depression and how it differs from a case of the holiday blues?
Sure, I'd love to. So I always say that the holiday season is to a psychiatrist what tax season is to an accountant. It's our busiest time of year. And for some of those people, it could be the holiday blues. As you mentioned, some of those stressors can leave people feeling a little run down and tired. But people with clinical depression, or as we call it, major depressive disorder, it's much more severe than that. It really takes away the person's ability to function in their everyday life. Their overall quality of life declines significantly. And it's more persistent and difficult to sweep away as well, would be the main differences.
What are some of the treatment-resistant depression, and what treatment options are available? Because you talk about treatment-resistant depression. I just don't understand what those are. So enlighten us on what those are and what some of the treatments are that are available.
Well, I'd love to, Tom, and that's exactly why I'm so excited that Sally and I were able to partner with Janssen to raise awareness of treatment-resistant depression. So treatment-resistant depression is a step beyond even clinical or major depressive disorder, where someone has tried two or more different antidepressants, and those antidepressants did not work for them. That's who we would define as having treatment-resistant depression. But there is hope for people with TRD. Several years ago, the FDA approved a medication called Spravato, which is approved for adults with treatment-resistant depression or with major depression with suicidal ideation acutely, and those are to be taken with an oral antidepressant. And just like all medications, there's some different risks, some different benefits to this treatment, and it's not going to be for everybody. So the important thing is that if someone out there feels like they are struggling with TRD, talk to your doctor or other healthcare provider about this.
Sally, tell us about your experience with treatment-resistant depression.
Yeah, so, I started dealing with depression or really struggling with depression when I was in college, which I think is similar for many people. But I really think of depression almost like any other disease, like cardiac disease or diabetes, and I manage it every single day. And depression presents differently for everyone. So some people, it may be that they lose their energy or they kind of retreat from their social life. And for me, I found that at the beginning of this year, I really was struggling. The antidepressant that I was taking didn't seem to be working. And I went to my doctor and I just said, I had heard about this new treatment on a podcast that I listened to about mental health issues called Spravato, and is that something maybe that I would be a candidate for? So with his help, I was able to connect with a clinic locally and begin treatment in the spring. And it's been a big help for me. But everybody presents differently in treatment, and they react differently to treatment. So I definitely encourage anyone that is suffering from depression or thinks they may be to make that phone call. And if they can't advocate for themselves, then have a friend or family do that. Because it's hard when you're in the middle of depression to really get the energy and motivation to make the call. So sometimes it's a matter of really seeing a friend or family struggling and getting them to help you if you can't do it yourself.
You never know where you may hear about the treatment options. You heard about it through a podcast, but how has your experience with the medication impacted your TRD symptoms?
Yeah, that's true. You really don't know. I mean, podcast or an article, it really doesn't, it could be many different places. So I brought it to my doctor's attention. He had only heard about it briefly. And so the main difference for me is that I've been able to focus more, the sort of the fog and darkness of depression has lifted, and clarity. I really think that depression can affect people differently, and for me, that's the main difference, is that I feel like my thinking is clearer, I enjoy my life better, and I make sure that every day I take steps to manage my depression, whether that means exercise or meditating or journaling. It's not just one thing. It's sort of a toolkit of things, and the medication, this new treatment and medication I'm taking, it's just another piece of that toolkit.
So the medication then is just one of many pieces that you use on a daily basis to manage your depressive symptoms, and Sally.
That's right. So I journal, I meditate, I exercise, I try to eat well as best I can, all of those things. I mean, it's not just one thing. It's a physical, mental, it's all of those things. You have to work on it from a lot of different directions, and taking medication is just one of the ways that I do that.
Dr. Chepke, Sally said that she heard about it on a podcast and brought it up with her doctor. How important is it for people to have an open dialogue with their doctor about stuff such as depression, so that maybe you can get on a plane where you and your doctor are on the same understanding?
Well, it's really critical. One of my other sayings is that there's two people in life you got to be completely honest with if they're going to get you out of trouble: your lawyer and your psychiatrist. So you got to be willing to open up to your psychiatrist or any other healthcare professional you're seeing about what's going on with you.
Well, if somebody out there is struggling or sees a loved one struggling with depressive symptoms, doctor, what would be some advice you would tell them?
Sure. I'd say that the most important thing is don't ignore it. Don't assume that it's just going to go away. Take it seriously and talk to your doctor or other healthcare provider about it. For those who want to learn more, you can go to www.spravato.com. And also want to make sure everyone's aware of the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. You can find that at 1-800-273-TALK. And to anyone who out there, I want to speak directly to you who feels like you're struggling, keep fighting, because there is hope out there and there is help.
I'm just so glad, doctor, that people are starting to understand that problems with the brain and stuff of psychiatric issues are just the same as if your heart wasn't working right, or if your lungs weren't working right, or if your knee started locking up on you. It's exactly the same. It's an ailment that needs to be treated through a doctor. It doesn't make you weird. It doesn't make you any different than anybody else with a medical issue. It just needs to be treated by a doctor that knows how to treat it. And sometimes I think people forget that mental health issues are the same as heart or lung issues or cancer issues. They're all the same.
I agree, Tom. I couldn't agree more about that stigma, and I'm glad we were able to try and change it today. Thanks so much for having us on your program.
Thanks, both of you, for joining us today to talk about this issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
You know, it's one of those things where people still to this day have a stigma about mental illness, and they shouldn't. Mental illness is the same as heart issues, or if you have, vein issues, lung issues, you got cataracts, you need a hip replacement. All of that is the same. Mental issues are exactly the same. It is a ailment that you need professional help with, medical help with, and it should be thought of all as the same way instead of having the stigma or the negativity that sometimes people put on people who have mental disabilities or mental issues or struggling with depression or stuff of that nature. It is a real struggle. It's a real fight, and people need to realize that. And if you suffer from any of those, talk to your doctor about it. That's your best resource. Be honest with your doctor. That's the only way you're going to get better. We're going to take a break, come back more after this timeout. You're listening to 1370 AM, 96.3 FM. This is WOCA, The Source.